Spectrovision Radio. Spectrovision Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings podcast, where we listen to people's fairy encounters. But take heed, we're not talking about winged Tinkerbells here. These are real fairies, real encounters that took people like you and I by surprise. Stay a while and hear their stories. My name is Jo Hickey Hall, and I'm a folklore researcher. Content warning: this episode discusses sexual assault.
And I basically passed into another world. I was face to face with a little being.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings podcast. I'm Jo Hickey Hall, and today I am delighted to be joined by Anna Vigurs, who is an artist and folklorist dollmaker. Welcome, Anna.
Hi Jo, thank you so much for having me.
We've been really looking forward to this because I absolutely adore your work. It would be lovely if you could introduce what it is that you do as a dollmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So I never planned out to make dolls. They came to me when I was trying to become an illustrator. I was frustrated with some work I was doing. I couldn't paint this thing I was trying to paint. So I bought some clay, and my hands and my heart just started creating all of these little faces, hundreds of little faces out of clay that then turned into dolls. And they became a fascination for me because so many of them weren't planned. They would arrive in my hands. So I've made hundreds now, and they've flown all over the world, and they're mixed with magic, intention. They have things buried deep inside them, physical things like seeds, stones, crystals, prayers, spells, and I tune in to people that ask for a doll, and I make the doll for them and send it on their way. So yeah, I just love the idea of making objects that have great meaning, because I feel we have so many objects that mean nothing. Yeah.
I love them. Well, I'm lucky enough to own one. Not own. They're going to say the guardian of one. I'm not sure who's got the guardian of who, to be honest. And I love her so much, and they're made with so much care. And I was just thinking there that you're kind of like a doll midwife, because you are sort of bringing them into the world, aren't you? You know, you're there. They kind of arrive in your hands like a magical midwife. And I know that, you know, you have had quite a number of really amazing experiences too, and you know, some of which we're going to discuss today. When you first contacted me with your experience, I was blown away. I really was, and it happened in a place that has held on to a lot of its kind of essence. There aren't that many places in Britain, I suppose, that have, uh, but this was a very magical place. So do you want to describe what happened? And also later, I just want to come back to your doll making and see some of your dolls. So because they're
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful creations.
absolutely. So, at the time, just during the time where I experienced this amazing meeting, I was working on a psychiatric ward. So my job was very day to day, very serious, very measured. I was in a very prescribed and institutionalized kind of place. That was my day to day all the time. and I had some time off work. My husband and I had found some babysitters for our children, so we decided to have a romantic night in the forest rather than going to a pub or a restaurant. We said, let's go to the forest. So we live very near the Forest of Dean. We live in Wales. So we hopped over the border into the Forest of Dean, and we took some hammocks with us. I'd never slept in a hammock, so I had no idea what to expect. And it was actually summer solstice or around that time, but I think it was bang on solstice date. Um, so we arrived at our favourite place. I won't disclose the name because it's very, yeah, it's very special, but it's also commonly walked through. And we put our hammocks up. We spent our time very quietly. We didn't really speak to each other, just absorbing the atmosphere of the forest. And I would say my heart felt extremely open in that place. It was a huge release for me coming out of work, and I was just fully tuned into all of the things there. And we watched the sun go down so the part of the forest we were in was very high. It's on a high ledge that was an old lookout post for the Romans, actually, and also the Debuni. I'm not sure if I'm saying that
Uni,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a very ancient lookout place. So we were looking out over the landscape, and the sun went down, and we got into our hammocks. And it being, coming into summer, we weren't very well prepared. So we didn't bring very much with us to keep us warm. I don't think we even brought a sleeping bag. We were a bit silly, really. And there was a constant wind up there from this ledge. And it kind of really whipped up as the night progressed. And we got into our hammocks, and I just thought, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to sleep here tonight. There's so many noises. There were owls hooting across the valleys to each other throughout the forest. And the most wonderful thing happened where a pod, I think that might be the term, of boar came rustling through the bushes and the hedges. They went underneath our hammocks, and there were little babies with them, and they couldn't smell us because we were high up and this wind was taking our scent away. But that confirmed for me even more, like, I'm not going to sleep. There are wild boar all over the place. So I just resided myself to the fact that, okay, this is going to be a long old night. My husband settled down in his hammock. He goes to sleep pretty quick, so he was out. And I put my head back in the hammock, and this sensation came over me, which is a sensation I've been used to in the past when I had an out of body experience, which I'll talk about later. And this rushing sensation going through my head, and I basically passed into another world, another realm, which sounds absolutely crazy to say out loud, but I was face to face with a little being. I actually have made a model of her face because I would love to share it with you. So I'll just explain a little bit more. So I landed in the forest in this twilight environment, and this little, what do I call her? Little being was absolutely furious to see me. She was really frustrated that I was there. And we were just staring at each other, and she was making these sounds that weren't a language I knew. It was all very high pitched, but there was a telepathic communication between us both, where she was saying, "Oh, for God's sake, I can't believe you're here. You've completely interrupted what we're doing." There was this real frustration on her face, and this is what she looked like. This is as close to it as I can get. So I'll try and see. So her face was like wood and bark chip, and bark, and dark brown and really crumpled. And her face would glitch as well, so it would be kind of static, and then the whole thing would like glitch, and her nose would be bigger or smaller, and her mouth would be smaller and or wider, and eyes further apart. Or it was just very, very strange. And she said, "You need to come with me." And she took me to this table that was under a tree, under a beech tree. And it was covered in all different purple fabrics. And there were two other beings there as well. And she, the emphasis was that I had to dress up in purple. They were frantically explaining to me that I had to wear purple. And I've actually brought a little bit of purple with me to tell this story. It's the only purple thing I own. So they were frantically draping and wrapping me in these purple fabrics. And the original one that was so grumpy with me had disappeared. But the other two stayed with me. And then they grabbed my hands and they tried to drag me to this holly bush. And I just rooted down. And I was like, there is no way I'm going through that holly bush. And that's when the experience ended, and I landed back in the hammock, and it was dawn at that point, you know. So, and it was freezing cold. I was so cold when I came to in the hammock, and I couldn't believe my night, what had happened to me. And my husband had said, he woke up and he said, "Oh my God, that was awful. That was such a cold night." And I thought, well, if this had been a dream, you know, I've had very, very strong dreams in my past, you know, that, you know, they can really stay with you, can't they? But I feel like this experience, it was so visceral. It's changed my life, really. It's opened me up to so many other realms and ways of thinking and accepting other people's experiences. There's so much out there that we just don't understand. So yeah, that was my experience, and I wrote about it as soon as it had happened. I managed to record as many details as I could.
That's always a good tip. It's such an amazing story, and if I'm remembering correctly from when you first sent it to me, initially when you were settling down and you kind of went into this deeper state, that was around about sort of 11:30 at night or something like
Yeah,
that, and then when you came to, it was about 5 in the morning. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
So quite a long period of time too.
Yeah, so since listening to your podcast, I've, begun to learn about what do you call it? Like time.
Lost time.
Yeah,
Lost time.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a whopper for me, and I've shared it with people, and they've just looked at me like, either I'm completely crazy or it's allowed other people to open up about their experiences. You start to find your tribe, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I think, we'll kind of come back to the details of the experience in a moment, but I think, what's kind of really relevant here also is your ability to be able to move into these altered states. And that comes from experiences when you were younger, very,
Mm.
very difficult experiences. Would you like to share that? Because I feel that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was born, it was all quite traumatizing. My mum had a really awful birth with me, and I turned into being quite a reserved, very nervous child. Whether that was because of birth trauma or what, but I always had huge sensitivity about everything. And I was actually talking to my mum just before I came on here, and she said, "Do you remember when we took you to the zoo? You were 3 years old, and we thought that you'd love Bristol Zoo, but you were so miserable the entire time." And she asked me what was wrong, and I said, "I just feel so sorry for the lions and the tigers." And I just, I've always had a massive sense of justice and unfairness for things being treated badly. And I just think as a young child, I found the world too much. And I just felt like everything was alive, you know, the rocks, the flowers, absolutely everything. I could feel it all. And as I progressed into my childhood, I got really unwell. I um I had pneumonia twice in I think about a 2 month time span, and it left me with chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME as it's known. But my parents didn't realize I had ME. We didn't know what this was. You know, I was unable to walk and I would be in a dark room for very long periods of time, unable to listen to things, watch things, hold a book. I was completely shut down. So I'd gone from actually being quite hyperactive, even though I was very sensitive, I was quite a hyperactive child, to having absolutely nothing. And that was when I experienced a couple of out of body experiences in my bedroom. I just recall shooting out of myself and being able to see myself. I was on the ceiling, and I remember the feeling of the texture of the ceiling against my back. So there was texture involved as well as, you know, what I was seeing, and could see my body. And then I could get outside my bedroom door and go down the stairs, flying down the stairs, which has been mentioned on here before. I was able to roam around the house, see what my mum and dad were doing. And I got out into the garden at one point, into the apple tree. But then I panicked that I wouldn't be able to get back in. I might fly away forever. So, yeah, that happened twice. So the sensation of me coming out of my body was similar to what happened in the forest.
Yeah, this is something that I have heard rather a lot. Thank you for describing that. And I'm really, yeah, but just really feel for you as a young person around that age, you know, going through this at times when you're just about to sort of find your independence and be going out, and suddenly, you know, your body shuts down.
Mm.
And people do say this when their physical senses or physical abilities are interrupted or shut down in some way, then they start to exercise other parts of their senses. And I had a really good friend who lost his vision, and he began to be able, because he couldn't now go to those places because he had some physical disabilities too, with his illness. And because he now couldn't physically visit those places, he would go there, you know, in his mind. And I mean, he'd always been a kind of powerful kind of wizard anyway. But when this happened to him, everything took on such a deeper, stronger, you know, stronger abilities, and very precise. And he was coming back with so many incredible, you know, such incredible gnosis and you know, breakthroughs in his understanding of these worlds. So it does seem to be something that happens. So, you know, you've kind of come through your life with, it's almost like a gift, because thankfully you did recover.
Yes, yeah, it's a funnier one, isn't it? Um, I would say I'm actually really, really grateful. Oh gosh, I mean, some people have ME for, you know, 30 years and they're in the situation I was in the entire time. So there are many different levels of it. But I think it's given me such a zest for life, you know, I don't take anything for granted. And I had a relapse actually not long after that Faye experience in the woodland, had a massive relapse that lasted 5 months. Um, my husband would have to cut my food up for me and help me, you know, eat and all that stuff. This is about 9 years ago. So yeah, I would say every time I get ill, experiences go deeper. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
It's really interesting. So you had that experience, and yeah, I mean, purple. I always think about purple as being a kind of transition color for some reason. It reminds me of, well, maybe because it's crown. And
Mm.
that's that big shift from kind of physical to, we're going into the more kind of etheric realms, through the crown chakra. And I wondered what your relationship to purple was, but also, it immediately made me think of the series of English Encounters episode where my guest saw these two figures walking through the forest. He was with a friend at the time. They both saw these figures walk through. One was a small kind of gnome looking man,
Yeah.
and there was a taller woman with long hair and a purple gown. So yeah, this purple in the other world, it does come up occasionally.
I love that episode. I've forgotten that about the color. So yeah,
Right.
really cool.
Yeah, it's really
Mm.
cool. It's very striking and very, very sort of vibrant.
It used to be my favorite color when I was like 3 years old, but
Right.
but it hasn't really had much in my life. It's not a color I go to now.
It's a very regal color too, isn't it?
Yeah, the Royal Forest of Dean, it's
Of
called.
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, so there might be sort of other layers of royal, royal beings in there that
Mm.
that we don't know about, as well as its name for other reasons. So, you'd gone to this place. It was, as you say, on a kind of ledge. So there's a bit of a kind of threshold there, to the air, from the
Oh,
ground to the air, so you've got that edge, that
yes.
liminal space there. If we kind of time it with what happened afterwards, then you were about to have a big shift of some kind.
Mm. I felt really out of my depth in that job. I was an occupational therapy support worker for people that had been admitted to the ward, and it was a lockdown ward. And I suppose it takes me back to the whole thing about people being locked away. I just felt so much empathy with people, and most of them had dementia, but they didn't realize they had it. So they were being assessed at this unit
Yeah.
alongside other organic mental health illnesses.
Mm.
So it was a lot, when you're very empathetic, being in those situations, they're a lot. And yeah, I think my body just hit complete burnout, and that's why I got ill, because it was so emotionally exhausting, as well as being, dare I say, in kind of just a very black and white, very bland. The people I was working with, there was no magical thinking,
It's the thing, I think, because of the kind of the over, bureaucratization of just everything squeezed within an inch of its life, there's then no room for you to have a sense of, oh, I'm kind of sensing what this person might need, and being able to have the freedom to act upon that, or even the time, because you're just so squeezed, really take my hat off to people that are working in institutions like health and education, really important areas of service, and not able to actually exercise that in a way that feels satisfying for them, or the patients or clients. It's
Mm,
incredibly hard. I think, yeah, I can really imagine how that would have had an effect. The way that you kind of went in to the realm and met these beings, and there was a very real sense of, it feels like danger, that it may not be, but going into the holly tree. And we have heard stories before of people being, there's a really good one actually in the Fairy Census, of a woman being coming back from holiday and very exhausted, and lying on her bed, and actually being dragged off her bed into a wardrobe.
oh
Right.
wow.
Towards this wardrobe. And I mean, it's wild story, but you do get these stories of people being, of course, all over the folklore, people being taken into the other world. Then your story reminded me also of the Fairy Faith documentary. There's a really good interview with a guy who is sitting, in the hillsides, and he seems like a very grounded, matter of fact kind of chap. And he is talking about how he was up there one day, and he looked down and he saw that his shadow was being cut away by two little beings with really mischievous faces. And he's saying, it's just a fantastic interview. And I will get that clip and I will put it underneath this episode because it's actually my favorite fairy sighting online before I'd ever set up, even had any idea about any kind of podcast or anything like that. It was really my favorite clip because, yeah, I mean, he suddenly realized what was going on. And he always says, if he had just stayed asleep, and the same with the woman that woke up when she was being dragged off her bed into a wardrobe, if she hadn't woken up at that point and fought back, and as in got into her body again, is what you did actually, you got back into your body again, then, neither of them knew what would have happened next. So it's not to frighten people away from fairies in any way. I think you really need to have your wits about you. And I don't want to say that it's all kind of horror stories and that there is so much in the folklore that would leave us feeling, or some people feeling terrified of these realms. But you do need to keep your wits about you.
Absolutely. I don't know if I told you this one, Joe. It happened in September. So I was at a women's retreat. I go to it, the birds outside. I go there twice a year. And the first time I went, I just thought this is a beautiful place. Um, it was, gorgeous environment. I didn't really feel anything. And the second time I went, within half an hour of arriving, oh my goodness, this static energy came in so strongly. I felt completely scattered, so discombobulated. The Fae were having an absolute field day with me. My earring was in my ear 1 second and then it disappeared, but it hadn't fallen in my clothes. It wasn't anywhere. My wash bag was taken. I was in my wash bag, put it down, went down to get it again, and it disappeared. It was constant trickery, and it was happening to so many people that weekend. And yeah, as you say, there's so many different levels. It can be very playful, pretty creepy, very uplifting. It's all the things. And on that encounter, that weekend, I saw an orb come out of a hedge. I've seen 3 orbs in my life, and this orb came out the hedge for about 5 seconds and just drifted and just disappeared. So yeah, there was something very, very tangible that weekend.
It really makes me wonder about the way in which you're, creating these dolls. Do you find that you're getting help from somewhere else? Yeah. What's that like? And I was wondering earlier, and this is something I think about with all people that create in some way or another. Do you dream? Do you dream them into being sometimes? Do they appear to you in dreams? What is that relationship between yourself and these dolls?
Oh, it's a lovely question. Sometimes it's very functional, and I'm like, okay, I need to make something, and I can make something. Other times I feel like there's a cue to the side of me here, my right hand side, right by my head, a queue of spirits that want to be listened to, and want to be created. And it's overwhelming. And I'm like, hang on a minute, let me just do this one. And I'll try and write down what I'm feeling and what I'm sensing. And then other times it can just disappear and I can just be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to be quite functional and create. But yeah, it can feel quite intense. And that happens to me when I'm at night, quite often doing a little drift off to sleep. Everything will rush in, images, sounds, textures. Um, so I'm quickly noting things down in my phone. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
way, isn't it?
there's a lot of energy that can come in for sure.
And do you feel like you're meeting different personalities in them, or how do they kind of present something of themselves to you? I'm just wondering how they do that.
Yeah, I would say there are sometimes very forlorn little spirits, quite Some of my work I've been told can be a bit creepy, which I'm absolutely fine with. I think there's definitely a space for things to be powerful and a little bit creepy. Yeah, some things can feel quite forlorn, sad, haunted. That came through a lot a while ago for me, but I think it was also a bit of a reflection on what was happening on the world stage. Um, I've had, beautiful, whimsical feelings come over me and visions come over me. That's when things become a little bit more like this. So animism is a big part of my work. So um
Wow. Yeah, I love
making
that one.
pieces that are humanoid but mixed with animal. That seems to be a real thing. So they just hybrids. A lot of the time, my dolls really like to have bones with them, feathers with them, skulls. Yeah, all that good
So
stuff.
skulls of
Mm.
birds, or how does
Yeah, birds. I've had rats, which is not everyone's favorite, but their skulls are really tough. They really weather well, and I give them a good old clean. Fox teeth I've put inside dolls. Yeah, we have quite an abundant collection of strange dead things in our garden.
Mhm. So when people contact you, then do they can say, this is
Yeah.
what I want the doll for?
Yeah, yeah, I've made dolls for menopause to support women during menopause, child loss. Oh my gosh, I made a doll for a lady that lost 7 babies, and then she had her very first child Earthside. So that was just a beautiful celebration doll, but also they sent me things to commemorate each child, so they were in the doll as well. So it can go super deep, or it can be just, I would like this doll because I would like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very important work you're doing there. And you are about to have an exhibition of your dolls with Justin James Reed. Can you tell us more about this exhibition then? So he's going to be, so Justin's based in Virginia and he
Yeah.
has the Lights in the Sky exhibition space, which is a new
Yeah.
space specifically for, exhibiting pieces of art by people who have had experiences, both kind of UFO experiences and fairy experiences. Um, and there's a bit of a story that goes along with it in terms of your doll making, because you had a complete wipeout of your space that you're talking to me in now
Oh, yeah.
earlier in the year, and that's kind of how it came about, right? So could you explain?
Yeah. So I'm actually sat on the floor. So I would be this deep underwater if I was sat here in November. Back in November, we experienced a huge flood in our town that was devastating. I've got 5 friends that are still unable to move back into their homes.
Mm.
Um, it was a complete freak storm. And it was just very lucky that I wasn't preparing for an exhibition or anything like that, because I did lose quite a bit of work. Not many dolls, but lots of my old illustration work. Um, so Justin reached out to me after that and he said, I'd love to exhibit your work. So it's not exactly having a theme, it's just a collection of my work. Most of it is to do with animism and just all the nature around me and all the things that I find, and yeah, a real celebration of the wild other side.
And when is it going to be?
It's starting on solstice, actually, summer solstice, and it lasts until August. So,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So
Wow.
it's Richmond in Virginia.
Okay, well, we'll put all of the details about that up here. Have you ever had any specific experiences while making a doll that you can recall?
Um, I had an interest, not necessarily making the doll, because I just get very focused, very laser focused. There was one time where I needed to get something from the garden, which was down by my pond. and this is to do with the Fae. So we have a little mini orchard down there by the pond and our chicken run, but I knew that I couldn't set foot down there. There was something down there that was otherworldly, and I did not want to come face to face with it. And that was around this time last year, actually. This time's really potent in the garden, is it? Being Beltane, coming up to that. So sorry, that's not specific to making the doll necessarily. But I would say that when I am making dolls, I just get complete laser focus, and it is like I fall into a world whilst I'm making them.
Yeah, I can totally understand
So,
that. And of course, that's the other kind of liminal element of your story in the forest as well, because it was summer solstice.
I know.
These sorts of things arise. What else do you kind of have coming up then? Are you, because
Well,
I
I,
noticed your work changed a little after the flood. You
mm.
started creating these little, they were slightly different looking, almost like little chicks, almost like sort of new life being born.
Oh yes,
Love
that was.
them.
Oh, thank you. That was just me wanting to be jolly. I just wanted to, yeah, like you say, celebrate new life. I'm really inspired by birds. They're such incredible creatures. We have so many visit our garden. So I just thought, what a nice, light, jolly thing to do. And I haven't got any with me. I'm afraid they all sold really quick. Do you want me to tell you the story about the pixie in the student house in
Oh,
Cardiff?
yes,
Really
please.
good.
Yes, please. I would love that.
When I was a student, we lived in Cardiff, a bunch of us in this kind of quite rough, difficult industrial area. There was no whimsy in this place whatsoever. But it was around Halloween time, and my friends had been up into the mountains gathering magic mushrooms. Um, and two of my housemates, they took a really tiny, tiny dose, and they didn't want to do what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing. And I must say, I'm much more respectful with plant medicine nowadays. Um, However, my two friends, they took the smallest dose and they were just sat on the sofa having a lovely chat. They were actually starting a romantic relationship together. So it was a very lovely time for them both. And they both experienced this sighting together exactly the same time. They were aware of something out in the hallway, and the sofa was facing the door, and they were just staring at the door that was open a little amount, and this tiny little man came through the door and walked through the room, stood in the center of the room, made this really high pitched, shrill noise and span around, did a little dance, and then left the room and went back out into the hallway. And these friends of mine, they were not whimsical at all. They weren't into anything like this. And the fact that they both witnessed it was just so special, and they could recount all of these details with each other.
I
So,
love that.
yeah.
There's that kind of potency of that new relationship as well. I know I always tie that into my first experience seeing that little man. There's something about the falling in love that these worlds really love. And not just the falling in love and the, if it's going to be your life partner or something like that, but the kind of the energy, the raw, the lust and the raw attraction.
Mm.
So potent, as we know, we're in it now. We're coming up to Beltane. Everything's bursting through, all the vibrancy, the juices are rising and all this kind of vibe. And fairies love that. They're really attracted to that.
Mm.
And so I'm not kind
Yeah.
of,
It makes me wonder about my experience in the forest as well with Pete. We were there on our own and it wasn't particularly romantic, but we were thrilled to be there with each other. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think there's something about, the close connection between couples sometimes, even friends actually. You really got a lovely relationship with somebody. Something that happens when you come together that, I don't know, there's that thing where it's almost like you make each other complete in a way. When you come together, you become
Yeah.
larger. And then in doing that, somehow create a space for, I guess, love, and then for the love to come through, with the love can, can be a portal. As we know, it can be a
Oh,
portal.
I
Falling in love is
absolutely
otherworldly.
agree. That's beautiful. I had a similar, well, a lovely situation with my daughter and I. We were in the kitchen. It was around Christmas time, and we were stood near the fridge, and there were some cakes in there. And it was quite late at night, and we were saying, "Oh my God, should we have a cake?" But oh, it's 10:30 at night. We shouldn't eat a cake this late. Anyway, we did, and we got it out of the fridge and we cut it up, and we were giggling away. We just found life very joyful, and this bright pink orb flew between us. This ball of plasma, like only about that big. Um, and we both saw it, and it made us laugh so much. And I said, "Did you see that?" And she said, "Yeah." But then we just went completely back to normality again. Um, so it was just that jolliness.
Oh, that's beautiful. Maybe it's dropped in, with
Yeah,
the attraction of this joy, between loved ones.
that's it.
It's a very potent thing. That's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, well, thank you so much, Anna. I know you're going to run off shortly because
Sorry.
no, that's fine. You're heading up a workshop.
So this is in person. So this is a lovely community workshop that I'm running for lots of different types of groups in our town. But today it's a free for all, so anyone's welcome. I'm working with a puppeteer from Bristol called Araceli, and we're making a huge nature totem inspired by the Wye Valley, and we're getting children to come and make little nature totems out of sticks and leaves and all the things they can forage. And it's being put onto this giant totem, and then we're going to be parading through the town on Saturday with musicians, and we're just celebrating our rare earth. That's the title of the parade, Rare Earth. So we're celebrating all the beauty that you can see and that you can't see. And it's been wonderful working with schools. I've worked with 7 schools, helping kids get into this mindset of allowing them just to be really expansive, and that there's no rules, and you can make what you like, from these sticks. And it's been lovely being able to tell teachers off when they're getting too strict. I'm like, let them do what they want to do.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. This is absolutely beautiful. I hope you're able to, get it to more schools. That sounds like a really cool project.
Oh, thank you. It has been wonderful. I think all the funding will end after this project, but maybe in a couple of years. It's a 2-year rotation. They'll do it again in 2 years. But
Okay.
part of it again.
The what, sorry?
I'd love to be part of it again when they hold it again. Yeah.
Yeah, I really would yeah, I really hope you are, and I'd like to hear more about it too when you do. How can people get in touch with you then?
Through my Instagram, which is Anna Vigurs Art. Facebook, although I'm not so good on there. Probably Instagram's the easiest. My shop is attached if anyone wants to get in touch to, yeah, have a little magical creature for themselves.
Definitely. I guess because you're busy with the workshop and things and the exhibition,
Mm.
have you got things in there at the moment then?
There's
You,
a
I guess,
few little bits and bobs,
yeah.
but I want to say I've really wound it down just because of, yeah, I've been so busy.
Yes, we'll do an update soon because when your exhibition goes live in Virginia, we're going to do a bit of a live screening somehow. We're going to figure it out between now and then with Justin in Virginia, yourself and me. And that will be for the Patreon crew, and then that will go on YouTube afterwards as well. So
Oh my
people will
goodness.
get to see your exhibition screened. I'm looking
Thank
forward to it.
you, Joe. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And thank you so much for sharing your stories and your magic. And the other thing to say is that when when I can later in the year, what would be great is if I could come up and meet you where you had your experience.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll come up and we'll film there and we'll just have some meditation there, maybe leave an offering or something and just kind of feel into it.
I would love that. I've been back with my family, but it's always very chaotic and I've never been able to settle back into it. So I would love that.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll definitely do that and give an update here. So all the best then. Have a brilliant workshop and
Thank you.
yeah, good luck for all the prep for the exhibition too. And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening and watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider joining us on Patreon for dozens more episodes of unreleased bonus content, monthly online events, and a private chat. We are a warm, supportive community and it really helps to support the project. Find us on patreon.com/The Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast.
Spectre Vision Radio.